the biggest station in the world, playing all of today's hits. You're listening to Instinct Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're now tuning into the very best. It's yours truly, Jazzy Fizzle, Fizzle, Fizzle. And this is Instinct Radio, man. Tune in, baby. Oh, boy.
All right, good evening, everyone. Happy Monday. It's your boy Kevin Thornton, and you are tuned in to the Wellness Architect Show. It's going to be a very amazing show today. I got two great people. It's another one on their way. Y'all know I'm all about health and wellness, mind, body, and spirit, but I'm also feel like my platform is to inspire, educate, and empower people to be the best versions of themselves. With that, you also got to be educated on the whole political process. You know, with the whole situation with how President Trump got in and the lack of voters turnout last time, we got to understand that we play a big part. And based on the conversations I had with these people prior to the show starting, I think once you hear them talk, you understand why it's a big part and why our vote, our attendance is necessary. So, I want you to tune in, call in at 478-569-6474. Once again, 478-569-6474. Introduce yourself, please, and tell them who you are and what you're running for, and then want the brother to say.
Thank you. So I am D. Dawkins Hagler, and I am a candidate for Georgia Secretary of State. And thank you so much for allowing us to be on the show tonight. We are excited about this conversation. I'm glad just to be here with the Wellness Architect tonight.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mike Glanton Jr., and I am running for the Georgia State Senate, District 35. It covers a part of the West Metro and a lot of the South Metro. And I am also just honored to be here with Mr. Thornton and just being able to have this awesome opportunity to help you with this platform.
Thank you, sir. I know you got to leave first, so I want to talk to you first. Tell them, how you get to this point of wanting to become for the state senate, and why it's important for us to select you.
All right. Well, part of this comes from just being part of politics for a long time. My father was elected about 13 years ago into the Georgia General Assembly, and that opportunity of him being in that position gave me an opportunity from an apprenticeship level to just learn politics from behind the scenes, as far as just legislation and not just being part of the laws, but understanding how they're made, what motivates them, the process to get them done. And that's encouraging to me because that always encouraged me to want to be involved in it. Plus, I understand how important it is as far as just a taxpaying citizen to understand the political aspect of your community. Everything from property taxes, millage rates, to education, to how our teachers are paid, our wages on our job, what's coming to our community, what's zoning and things like that. It affects every and anything that we do. So it was very important for me to have that opportunity to get out in terms of representation and leadership, not only to do that, but to inspire the next generation that looks like me, that can understand me, and I can understand them, to have them want to understand politics and being. It's cool. I mean, it's not all uptight. It's all about advocating for your community and taking the information that your community is giving you and going to put it to work to bring back dollars and funding and just economic growth and stimulus back to your community.
Okay, so those who know me know that I'm very intentional in what I do, and one of the things I use my platform for is to showcase black men in a different light. Society and media does not showcase us in the best light. So with my platform, I try to show people, black men and women, but also black men, because black men really don't be shown in the best possible light, that there's black men out here doing great things in all different avenues. And so that's why another reason why I was so excited when she called me about you, that we could have somebody like you on the show who's a young black man, trying to do things in the community and try to do things in politics, and you could show our youth and people in our own generation that it's possible. And so why is it important for us to get involved in black politics?
Oh, excellent question. I appreciate the question. I had an awesome opportunity today to go visit South Atlanta High School with these young guys. They were freshmen, seniors, sophomore, junior. It was a foundation called the Dukes Foundation. And when each of these young men stood up to introduce themselves to me, they said their name very clear. They said what they believe. They said a quote, just some of these quotes I hadn't heard of, but they were so structured and disciplined and determined and respectful, pants on their waist. It was awesome to see that, and because so many of us is discounted. I hate to believe that there's a shortage of us out here, because I know all these strong black women and strong women are just, moving the world. I got 2 daughters myself, so I understand how important it is as a black man to have that positive image, not only to the young men, but to the young women as well. Because if we all come together and start coming together, showing that positive light in the male and the female in our communities, now we're going to have a different type of energy going back to our community. So by being involved in black politics, what we do is we bring the control back to us. We bring the control back to our communities. I have my community, my district is very a large African American presence. So I think that us not being involved, I like to use a slogan: you either on the menu or at the table. And I like to have a seat at the table, because at the seat at the table provides that decision-making process, that decision-making opportunity, that opportunity to see education and policy and economic development come directly to your community, because it's a direct input. So if we don't get involved in black politics or politics, period, then we're on the menu. I'm tired of being on the menu. There's probably a lot of people that are tired of being on the menu, but they need that engagement from somebody who is going to bring it down to that low level to where people can understand, not from a disrespectful low level, but from a level to where anybody can understand. And when you understand, now you're going to take it. I was on that low level when I came in, not understanding. But once I educated myself on the politics, the process, and everything that had to be done, I took myself up a level because I was educated on it. I was knowledgeable about it. That's my obligation, to make sure that I do that for every young man. I had a young man ask me the question today. He said, if you're unelected, what do you plan to do after that? I said, well,
Good
young
question.
man, I plan on being elected, first of all.
Right.
But I said, second of all, I'm going to continue to do the work, because I'm motivated by seeing young men and young women like you that are passionate about trying to continue to go forward. So whether I'm in an elected position or not, I'm still a community member. I'm still a resident of my area. I'm still a person that cares about my community, and I'm going to move the ground, whether I'm in a spot or in a seat. It's all about just making it happen and getting down in the trenches and understanding what our community needs to be better. And that's what I plan on being part of.
I like
I hope
that.
that answered your question.
It did. One of the things that you said when y'all was having a conversation in the beginning when we were getting set up is that like I think it was somebody, it was a mayoral position, and we only had like 13%.
Yeah, they ain't gonna like this when I say that, but my city, the city of South Fulton, residents about 125,000 people. We had an inaugural mayor council. This is the first one. We had about 17,663 people go out and vote out of 125,000. That's 13%. That's horrible. We cannot continue to operate our community by having such a small portion of people elect people, and that small portion of people is the only ones holding those people accountable. Now we're not seeing anything done. Now when things happen, you have a whole lot of people that want to rush to the table instead of being at the forefront of those decisions that are being made. We look at places like Ferguson, Missouri. You were wondering why the whole city council was white and chief was right, and they had a racist mentality. That's because nobody was voting. If you don't raise the voter turnout, then you're going to have these situations where you're wondering why your superintendent is who he is or who she is, or the chief of police or whatever. These things are motivated by, when you vote for Board of Education, they hire a superintendent. When you vote for city councils, they hire a chief of police. And that's the political part of it. And so if you don't get involved in understanding and putting people in the right position, you're going to continue to be underrepresented and misrepresented.
And I think one of the things you said, you didn't say it the same way I'm about to say it, but it's like if you don't show up and participate in the process, then your thoughts or your opinions really doesn't matter, because if you really cared, you would show up and show out. You know, and that's one of the things I think we don't understand, because we don't go and vote, but yet we still have an expectation of people trying to do something that's gonna be for the betterment of us. Yes, sir. And that's a false reality, because if we don't show out, If we don't participate in the process, why would they want to think about us? Consider our thoughts and our actions, because we're not participating.
People. I like to tell people all the time. People don't come out and see how well we teach our kids, how well we help them with our homework, how we worship in our churches, how well we keep our yard. They look at the numbers. And if you're going to look at a number of a community from an overview, they're going to look at the number and say 13% people voted over there. They really don't care about their community.
Right.
Unfortunately, the 70% of the people that voted at 70%, they're going to be paid attention to first.
Right.
That's the reality of it. I mean, I'm pretty sure somebody's going to say, hey, well, you shouldn't have said it like that or whatever. But if we don't start giving it to people the raw and the real.
Raw and real.
I mean, we're so numb to, we can see things happen on the news that are horrific, and we're able to continue on. We got to see it in the raw. We can't see it in the fake no more.
Right.
It can't be made up. It has to be real. And aligning ourselves together in our community is the realness that we can bring.
And you say a lot of words that is key to me, because I believe in alignment, and you align yourself with people who's aligned with who you are and where you're trying to go.
Yes, sir.
And one of the things I liked in your conversation is I feel like you're truly authentic. I don't look at you as a true politician.
I don't like to be called a politician. I like to be called a human, regular person that happens to be in politics.
I like that, because you said something that I think people are kind of scared of politicians or a human person in politics, because a lot of times we feel that they'll say what y'all think we need to hear to get the vote, but then once you get the job, guys don't follow through on what you say you're gonna do. And so a lot of times people feel like y'all are very inauthentic, and it's just a game of charades.
I'm not afraid to disagree with anybody. I'm not afraid for somebody to say that to me.
So what makes you different? Outside what you just said, than what they think of how politicians are.
I guess because I'm humble, first of all. So
right.
I like to be in a position where if I don't know the answer to it, then I'm going to find somebody that does. And then we're going to work together to try to get to a solution. But I think it's important for you to have that transparency, because it doesn't show that you're dumb or anything. It just shows that you're humble enough to ask somebody else for help, and you're humble enough to align yourself with the right team to be able to get the job done. Because I know Miss Hagler can tell you that being down there in the legislature, you have a lot of support. You have a lot of support because you have to align yourself with people that are going to help you on through. And if we can't take that same approach when we go back out and talk to voters, then what are we doing it for?
Right.
And I think it's just important for me to be honest, because if I build a house now on honesty and transparency, that house will stand strong. If I build it on lies and deceit, then it's going to fall eventually. And we've seen that happen in plenty. I met a young lady the other day. She was like, are you going to be on Scandal? You going to be on Scandal? So that facade of it's going to be a scandal involved is what's expected. We had an excellent example in the President Barack Obama, who remained scandal-free throughout the entire presidency.
Right.
They tried to throw him under the bus. They tried to get him involved in situations, but he didn't. And
Right.
that partly was part of the reason that helped motivate me to want to be involved in politics. I remember being my oldest daughter's PTA president at a school, Murphy County Elementary School in Lithonia, back in the day, and how excited I was. And I had more women join the PTA because I was a single father, and I was just excited about telling them this pertinent information that they needed to have to be able to help them on. And I think that level of honesty, that level of transparency and understanding and awareness also holds us accountable and keeps us accountable. And if more people know, they're going to tell me and let me know right from wrong. An older person walk up to you and say, sweetie, you know that ain't right. I'm raised right. I'm going to be willing to submit and understand what is right and try to get it back to the point.
I like that in you, but also what I like too is that you want to do what is needed to do for the rest of the community.
Yes, sir.
But also you not afraid to say what needs to be said to us, in fear of if I say the wrong things that I might not get their vote.
Somebody else did that and they won the presidency. I don't know. My bad.
So that's what I appreciate, because I think a true leader has to be fearless enough to say what needs to be said. Because in order for us to grow as a people, as a community, we got also not just have them do what's best for us, but also we got to be able to hear the truth of what we need to do to be better in the community as well. So if you, not going to say if, when you are elected,
I like that. Change it.
when you are elected, what is your plan to help the community in two things? You know, I always got to bring it back to wellness, economic wellness, social wellness, and environmental wellness.
Whoa, look at you. Social wellness.
Hello, and thank you for
I feel
joining
like
me. My name
mental
is
health
Mike
should
Glanton
be,
Jr., and I
addressed from an alternative
Absolutely.
perspective. I think that and this is a conversation that I've had with a vet that has PTSD that was diagnosed. I mean that has medicine, takes medicine, and it was a thin line on how do I approach this and saying that we should treat this from a more holistic perspective and be able to just come up with alternative methods for it. My
agree.
daughter is elementary school. They're taking yoga in she's in excuse me. My daughter's in second grade. They're taking yoga.
Yeah.
Those things are meditation. Those things are they're helping her. And I might look at it as a small thing at Milan's in yoga, but think about the pattern that is starting to build with her with
It is.
how to start treating different things that she
Don't lose your thought, because I have a friend of mine. He teaches yoga, and that's been his thing. He been infiltrating a lot of the schools, and they
offer it for free.
Yeah, he does meditation. I think the school paid for him, and he'll go in there and he does meditation, teaching meditation yoga to the kids. And in the short period of time they've been doing it, they can see the change in the kids.
Yeah. She teaches me. I mean, as an adult, I need to learn how to meditate a little more. I think
Absolutely.
I would probably deal with things a lot differently. And see, I've been to different symposiums and things like that where there were so many different doctors that had all these great ideas, but they're not getting implemented. We need to start putting these things in terms of healthcare and things like that, because we can't address one issue without addressing another one. We must address gun control, and we must address mental health.
Right.
And from a economic standpoint, I mean, from a what was it? The
environmental.
Well, in my community, my district is very rural, so I think that we need to start. We got the Chattahoochee River Basin right in our backyard, and we need to start finding more innovative ways to. I'm all for vegetation. I'm all for learning how to farm our land and make sure we're protecting that as well. I'm all for economic growth, but I'm also for preservation.
Okay.
And preservation of the land allows us to be able to use the natural resources of the land, and it helps us a lot better too as well. So I hope that answered that question. And like I said, what I don't know, we're gonna align ourselves with the right people that do.
And what about economic wellness?
Economic wellness starts from the inside. I mean, I'm looking at businesses and small businesses as the same way that the state of Georgia looked at Hollywood when they wanted to attract Hollywood. How do we sprawl businesses up from what's the word I'm looking for? How do we, from an interior standpoint, and I only think that's not the word I was looking for, but how do we create these businesses from us? And I think Georgia's saying we're the number one state in the United States to do business. Then we need to start treating our businesses that way, the small businesses that way, the same way we're attracting companies like Amazon with tax breaks and tax incentives. I believe that if a business can show a sustainable profit for 3 years, and then we need to start giving them the break to make sure that they're saying sustainable in business. And then now we're not going to lose that money from that tax incentive or that tax break that we're giving them businesses, because what we're going to do is motivate more people to do good business in order to make a profit and to stay in business. But now more people are going to become entrepreneurs, and more people are going to be business owners because they're looking to want to be at that point to where I'm getting tax breaks now. I'm able to sustain a business. Creates better customer service, creates retention in our community, creates more taxpayers, more home buyers. And we all understand that when people take ownership of something, it makes them a little better. Somebody out here without ownership of something doesn't have, a direction.
Right.
We want to make sure that if I'm walking past this trash and I live in this community, I work in this community, my business is in this community, I'm gonna pick that trash up. Opposed to if I don't, I may be more inclined not to care about it. That's just my opinion. But I think that from an economic standpoint, we need to start back investing in small businesses, making sure that they have that sustainability to be able to keep going and growing into these big Fortune 500, 100, 200 companies.
Okay, I know you gotta get ready to go. So I want to let you give you a final thought. So it don't have to be, race related. It could be about whatever you feel in your spirit at this moment. You want to tell the audience.
Well, first of all, I'm humbled and honored to be here with Ms. Hagler running for Secretary of State. Make sure you go and support her. You as well. Ms.
Thank you.
Thornton. And Ms. Lotus, she already knows. She awesome. For God send you people when you need them.
Right.
And I promise y'all that wasn't my bill. But maybe he was telling me something. But I'm on the quote that's been on my heart today that I spoke to these young men about today was from the great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And it was the ultimate measure of a man or a woman is not where he or she stands in a time of comfort and convenience, but a time of challenge and controversy. Right now we're in challenging and controversial times.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody don't step up, we're going to continue to be in those times. Mm-hmm. So I'm standing up because I want to take the links and put those links back together for our community, for our world, for our nation, to be able to continue to grow together and not be afraid of controversy. Because when there was controversy in the civil rights movement, they stood up and they made changes. Mm-hmm. And if we can do that then, we can do that now. Yes. And we have that level of resilience and determination. We can make it. And I believe that 2018 for politics in Georgia, for young people and people in general, is going to be great. And I'm excited about it. I'm happy. 70-some days left. May 22nd, you can vote. Make sure you vote for Mike Glanton Jr. You can find me on my website if it's okay if I plug it.
Go ahead.
It's www.mikeglantonjr.com. Make sure you put Junior on there. But make sure you go vote. Even if you don't vote for me, make sure you vote. But do your research. And I will be honored to have everybody's vote. And voting for somebody in your district, Secretary of State, Governor, all of these things are on the ballot in May.
One of the things, I know you gotta go, but one of the things I heard back then, and something that I was thinking once you had called me and asked me about doing this is, before the election comes in May, is to do like a town hall meeting.
Yes, I love those.
And what I was thinking about doing is just not just be me. It might be during my time slot, but I'm going to ask like Lyris, who's under Beer of a Conversation, and Regina Sunshine, who has the Regina Sunshine Show, and we could be the three hosts and invite y'all all back and invite people to come in so they could have questions, and we could be the moderators and have y'all come back in and do it again, because I think I want to push y'all. I want to push the whole situation. So if that's a good idea. I know
it's a great idea. Bring it on back in. Bring it on.
All right. I know I got a contact person, so we will make that happen. Right. But what I also want to say to you before you leave is that if we as men understand that we don't have to be Martin Luther King status, we want to be Jay-Z status. We could be who we are at this moment, and we all could be leaders in our own lanes. So what you're doing, you are a leader in your lane, and you could help push people to the promised land in that way. Me being a leader in my lane, and we do it that way, and we all not be fearful enough to be a leader, then we as a community could be the best thing possible.
Just pray for me. Always keep me in your prayer, and keep me in your prayers and keep me lifted up.
Will do.
Yes,
appreciate
sir.
you.
It's a blessing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Take care.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, before we start with Ms. D, Lotus, tell everybody who you are again, because you're going to be my co-host for the rest of the day.
Okay, my name is Lotus Rashay, and I am the CEO of Lotus Rashay Ignites Life Coaching and Consulting, where I partner with people to help them look on the inside and enhance that fire on the inside and help them to live a happier and freer life on the outside. Because if you're not happy on the inside, it's really a struggle to be happy on the outside.
Right. So, Ms. D,
Okay.
how you doing?
I'm doing well tonight. I can't complain.
So, why should the community come out in droves and support you, other than you being a great black woman?
Well, yes, I am a great woman. Yes, but that's because I am rooted and grounded in a bunch of black women who have been great. Some of them by bloodline, and some of them just by being mentors or other mothers in the community, or just being teachers or whatever along the way, because it takes a village to raise a family. And so, that being said, and then usually people say it takes a village to raise a child. No, it takes a village to raise an entire family.
Right.
And I've also learned in my life that if you educate, black women are known for educating entire families. We also say it's a proverb that says if you teach a man how to read, you've educated a man. But if you teach a woman how to read, you've educated a family, a community, a nation. And so I thank God for all the black women who've come along in my life who've nurtured me to this point. So Secretary of State, it is a huge position. It's one of the most important positions in the state of Georgia, and one we don't talk about enough, right?
Why is that?
Because people just don't know what that position does. People kind of know what a governor is, lieutenant governor, but they really don't understand the Secretary of State. But then many don't even understand the labor commissioner or the insurance commissioner or the agriculture or the superintendent, because everyone has distinct roles in government. And in Georgia, we have 8 constitutional officers. And those are the officers that I just mentioned. So the Secretary of State's office, first of all, the Secretary of State is the key chief election officer for the state. So that means all voter registration, all voting, everything like that falls under the Secretary of State. And we know that our right to vote has been tampered with and impeded upon over the years. We had to fight very hard for that. So we know that initially when this country was founded, black people were not given the right to vote. And then black men were given the right to vote before black women, because it was black men, then white women, then black women. And so it took a time, it was a process for all of us to finally get the right to vote. And so it's important that we talk about that right to vote. Not only that, the Secretary of State's office is in charge of all business and corporation in the state. So if you have a business and it needs to be incorporated, then you go to the Secretary of State's office. Or let's say you are a professional, a hairstylist, a barber, a nail tech, a nurse, a funeral home director, an architect, the list just goes on and on. All of the electrician, plumber, all of that comes through professional licensing through the Secretary of State's office. Securities, if it's dealing with money exchange, anything like that, stock bond, all of that, Secretary of State's office. Right. And then finally, nonprofit charities is covered by the Secretary of State's office. So I don't think people even understand the enormity of that position and how much power it actually brings. And so when you have a position like that, you need a person with integrity in that office. You need a person with the wherewithal, the know-how. And what we've seen over the last 12 years is that the people who were in the position were maybe not prepared for the position, maybe per se, and then they put people in those other offices who were not qualified. So this current Secretary of State that we've had for the past 8 years, he's not running for governor, so it's an open position, and he has spent his time eroding voting rights in the state terribly. A lot of people don't even know that last year alone they purged almost 600,000 people from the voter rolls. So I would advise all of your listeners and everyone you know, tell them to go check their voting status. You know, everybody needs to check it, because it could change at any moment because of who we have in that office. And
So when you say, I'm sorry, when you say purged, he mean like they just
took them off, erased them. So let me tell you what happened. So I can tell you millions of stories. So what happened last year? They purged 591,000 from the voter files, and they said the reason they did it was twofold. Either one, you moved somewhere. It could have been even within your county. It could have been down the street. So change your address. And 2, it could have been because you had not voted in the past 3 years. Now let me tell you why that's dangerous. Many people only vote every 4 years for the presidential election. That's all they've ever been groomed to know. That's all they've ever been socialized to think that I need to go vote for the president. They go vote for Obama. They want to vote for Obama. You know, whoever's running for president. Well, if you are eliminating people from the voter file because they haven't voted in 3 years, then you've taken off a large block of people who would normally go and vote. Now, the reason they did that is because they know that the demographics are changing in Georgia. And so you want to make sure that you get the people out the way that you know they're not going to properly vote for you. So you do a little tampering and a little trickery like that in order to take people off the voter files. And so I tell people all the time, check your voting status, because if you didn't vote for anybody last year and then you coming in this year, you don't know if you're still registered to vote because you could have been removed. Right.
Wow. You have any questions?
It's like,
Wow.
Wow, that was that's a mouthful.
It is.
And unfortunately, what you've just put out, many people don't know. We are not aware, and that's one of the reasons why when I met Ms. Hagler, I kind of told her about the show and that you were going to be talking about the economics and the social and the financial health of the community, because of course you're the health and wellness architect. And when she shared with me a little bit about her platform through her bio and all that, I was like, wow, she's really putting a lot of information out that the average person just does not know. Right. So for me, a question to you is, how do you perceive your job once you get in office? What do you think is the paramount thing that you want to focus on?
Well, that's a very good question. So the paramount thing I want to work on, well, actually it's two. So it is to protect the voting rights and to grow business or grow jobs. Because the Secretary of State's office, again, remember, you're dealing with elections and you're dealing with corporations and professional licenses. So if people have their professional license, they can start businesses. If people are starting businesses, you got to make sure they can get incorporated properly. And then if you're focusing on business, then what you're doing then in essence is you're growing jobs in this state. And so I want to make sure that the Secretary of State's office does everything it can to even, promote job growth. Because you have at your discretion as the Secretary of State certain budgets that you can use for certain things. And so education is key. And a lot of people are unaware. I'm not going to say they're ignorant. They're just unaware of things. Well, even maybe ignorant, but not of their own doing sometimes, about how the Secretary of State office runs or when elections are held. People may not know that every year elections are held in this state, whether it's municipal or whether it's state or whether it's national, but there are always elections. Last year was the year that we did municipal elections. So you had people that were running for mayor and city council. This is the year that you'll have gubernatorial and constitutional officers elections. Next year you'll either have a few municipal, but you'll have even some countywide elections or school boards. Believe me, we have a few school boards this year. And then the following year you'll have presidential again. You see what I'm saying? So every year there are elections. You may not know that, but I need people to get in the mindset that every year there's an election. But that comes from the Secretary of State's office, because if you wanted to educate the masses, you could. It's a matter of choice. And another thing I want to do is make sure that Georgia is a state that you have to opt out of voting and not opt in. And what do I mean by that? We should make it easy for people to vote. We should make sure that every high school student who turns 17 and a half is registered to vote. Not like you have to go to school and register. That is part of who and what we are, the fiber. You register them to vote. If anyone goes to get any type of state assistance, they're automatically registered to vote. If someone has been in prison and they get out of jail, then they've done their, all of the things they needed to do to get off of probation, then you automatically register them to vote. If you go get your driver's license, you're automatically registered to vote. We make it too complicated for people to be able to vote and to be registered. Why do we do that? This is an industrialized nation. We are supposed to be the free leaders of the world.
Right.
So why do we make it complicated? People should have to say, I don't want to be registered, as opposed to, how do I get registered? We can make that easier. And then one of the things I want to do is I want us to focus on same-day voter registration. Why do we have to say you got to be a month out? Like for this election, you have to be registered to vote by April 24th, or you won't be able to vote in the May 22nd election. See, that's education. The average person may not know that. Right. So you want to make sure that you do a good job of putting it out there, even if it's on the website, and you put people in the community to do education. Because I think the reason we don't do that now is because they're afraid to educate the masses, because then they know that the masses will then utilize their power. But
Exactly.
power never concedes power. It never has and it never will. So you have to have people in place who don't mind sharing knowledge. Because if you were doing what you're supposed to do anyway, you'll still get elected if you share knowledge.
So I just wanted to respond to what you were saying, because I hear you, and it's unequivocal that you understand how government runs. You understand what it means to protect the right of the voter, and you understand that you have to give the information so that the voter can make an educated decision. But you also touched on the fact that you want to help enhance jobs and enhance employment. And I know your background speaks to the fact that you have extensive knowledge on how to do that, but we hadn't really heard you say anything. You're kind of modest about your huge background. So if you don't mind, could you tell us a little bit about what experience you have in helping formulate jobs and having sustainability across the board as far as with people getting them jobs and helping them to keep those jobs?
Okay, so that's a very good question. Thank you. So, okay. So one of the things that I did, so my background is actually in human resource management and personnel management. So that's what I have a master's degree in. But even when I served in the Georgia General Assembly for almost 9 years, one of the committees that I was on, two of the committees actually deal with business. So one was banks and banking, because you got to have wealth and money to do business, right? Or you want to at least get to the point where you do that. And the other was labor. So I served on the committee that actually helps people get jobs. That's what we do. We dealt with everything dealing with jobs. But I also, during that time, did a lot of resolutions to help small businesses. I did resolutions that would provide, try to get tax breaks for those who want to start a business. And one of the things that I'm very proud of is we know that the film industry now is huge, right?
Yes.
But one of the things that we did at the Black Caucus, I was the chair of the Legislative Black Caucus for 4 years, which is the largest Black caucus in the country. And prior to that, the chair of the Women's Caucus. So I tried to do resolution one that dealt with women being in business, but the second one was the film industry. And I wanted us to pay special attention to Black people, African Americans, who were getting in the entertainment and film industry. Because at that time, we had just passed a tax break in the state, maybe about 10 years ago, right? Maybe about 10 years ago. And so when we did that 19 years ago, if you notice, Georgia now is the #1 place to do films.
Right.
But what I did was a few years ago, I said, let's go a step further. So I started bringing in different filmmakers, producers, people in the entertainment industry. What can we do to make this even better? So we did a resolution that would encourage African Americans to do more business here in Georgia as it relates to the entertainment industry. And I was even trying to, before I left, to get an extra tax break on top of the tax break that we already give to got all those companies to leave California and New York. I wanted to add an incentive on if you hired African Americans to either to provide services for you. So whether that was if you hired them to do hair or build sets or cook food, whatever in the industry, that you would get an additional tax break.
Right.
So you have to be intentional when you say you want to build businesses in this state, because people talk a good game, but do you walk what you've taught? And so one of the things I'm proud of as I was leaving is we were able to do a study committee, so a study commission or a commission in the General Assembly. That means it's going to give special attention to whatever that is to try to create laws and policies around it. So one of the last things I did is I took this on for the Black Caucus, and I assigned it to Representative Abel Mabel Thomas to push it. And she took it and we pushed it, and we got a study committee started to focus just on how do we implement more people in the film industry, because that is going to be huge for Georgia. That's a money maker. And also as it relates to Medicaid expansion, so let me just be very clear. Even though when people think about Medicaid expansion, some people just think about health care, but you're also talking about 60,000 new jobs just if we expand Medicaid in the state. So I couldn't understand how the Republicans would want to not accept Medicaid when it was a job creator. That is a job creator. And so that's why I pushed. The very first press conference I had as chair of the Black Caucus, the very first thing I did was for us to push legislation to expand Medicaid, but the Republicans just would not do it. But if we just started right there, the number of jobs we could create would be phenomenal. So you got to kind of put your money where your mouth is.
And see, we never would have known that if we didn't ask, you know, because she does have a plethora of knowledge in the platforms that she's trying to, you know, push forward when she does take office.
And
so
even
that's great.
and even the cannabis industry, I know a lot of people have their positions on cannabis and whether it's hemp or marijuana, but if we were to come online with that, that would be a great thing for Georgia as far as revenue generator. Because if we look at Colorado and Washington State and California and Nevada, just look at the amount of money that has been generated in their states alone from the cannabis industry. Georgia could do that. So one of the things
Of course.
And if they focus on it from a wellness perspective,
Yes.
and see, all those states that you talked about are more into holistic living.
Yes, they are.
And so then therefore they understand the importance of the cannabis and how it can help somebody with their healing.
It does.
Exactly.
And you know, and let's take, you know, if we become super religious to the point of fact that we sometimes we take, you know, what is a God creation,
A plant, a herb. Yes.
a plant or an herb,
Yes.
and we can use it to heal somebody, and we look at it for what a lot of people use it for, which is to get high. But that's not the necessary thing. If we speak their language and speak into a spirituality's point of view, this is God's creation, and all His creations that He used can be used for the greater good of healing. And we look at it from that perspective, and the fact, you know, money wins everything, and you can win off of that. I don't see the purpose of why it shouldn't be done.
That's exactly right. See, that's exactly right.
I don't get it.
I don't get it either. And we are limiting ourselves because even in Colorado last year, they generated so much wealth, they gave everybody back the tax refund, a windfall, because they were like,
Yes.
we don't even need your taxes because we're making this kind of money now. I mean, it's crazy. And then it's a healer. And I don't know how we've gotten so far off track, but we need to get back on track. So as Secretary of State, I would be excited if the legalization of marijuana, because that's more in corporations of businesses, and then probably more professional license fee, because then you have to have people who are certified in certain areas to learn, you know, the different aspects of the industry. So to me, that would be a great thing.
Great. So, same question to you is, how would you, in your position, help with social, economic, and environmental wellness?
Okay, so social wellness in itself. So I think that you have to be the moral compass. So one of the things that I know for a fact is some politicians do things for self, and others do it for the good of the community, the larger group. And so I never consider myself to be a politician. When people always say, well, what do you consider yourself? I say I consider myself a public servant, because a public servant will serve others, whereas the politicians pretty much at times serve themselves. And so when you're talking about the social wellness of your people, you cannot be socially well if you are treated with injustice, because a threat to justice is a threat anywhere, is a threat to justice everywhere. And so people have to first of all know that they're whole, that they're treated as an equal citizen, that they're not profiled, or their business is not redlined, or they're not redlined from buying a home just because of the color of their skin. And we know for a fact that institutional policies, historically, public policies, have been discriminatory against many groups, and especially African Americans. I mean, it's just a fact. It's not something we've made up. It's just proven. The statistics prove it. And so you have to have a good moral compass to run for office. And if your moral compass is off before you run, you're going to be even more jacked up in office. But if it's on point when you run, you got to make sure that it stays that way, that you don't allow power to take you over and to cause you to do things that you know is not supposed to be in your character. So when you talk about the social wellness of a people, you have to look at, are they eating well? Are they sleeping well? Are they Are they being profiled? Are they being, do they are able to go to the schools of their choice? Are they being pushed to certain areas? All of that socially, we have to look at the totality of that. And the only way that you can have good public policy is to have good elected officials. And how do you have good elected officials? If people have to go vote. And how do people vote? You got to have a good Secretary of State to make sure there's integrity in voting. There you go.
And you have to make sure they have the knowledge, and that's what
Right.
I've heard you say repeatedly, that you're giving out the knowledge to help people make an educated decision. No matter who they vote for, you still have to have the education to make a decision.
And then the other one was economically. So economically, let's just look at systems. So in Georgia, you have Georgia has over 10.2, 10.3 million people. 30% of that, like 31% are African Americans. So that means we make up a little over 3.1 million of the population, right? So you have 3.1 African Americans. Then you have about 14% Hispanic. Then you have about 6% Asian. So when you put all those numbers together, we really are not really the minority like people would think we are. We have a very good number of people. We almost make up 49, 50% of the population. So going back to African Americans alone, because we're black, so I'm going to talk about black people right now, then we'll move to everybody else. We're 30% of the population. But we also, in the state of Georgia, black people have $72 billion per year of buying power. Now, you may not think that's a lot, but our state budget is only $34 billion a year. So you got $34 billion a year state budget, but black people have $72 billion worth of buying power by themselves. Now, it's not harnessed because the black dollar does not stay in the black community. It just leaves quickly, whereas other communities are able to control their dollars. And why is that? Many of that reasons is because even banking institutions are not plentiful in black communities. You have payday lending, you have the places where you can just go and cash check in places, but there are not enough banking places the way we need to in the black community. And why is that important? Because when you have banking institutions in places, then they can do several things. They can lend to African Americans. They can give you a line of credit. They can underwrite things for you. They can give money to certain causes. So when you have an absence of banks in the black community, then that puts a hole. Okay, so that's just the banks. Then businesses don't really want to come to many areas where there's not enough banks or there's not enough wealth. But the problem is we do have wealth. We just take our wealth to other communities. Like in Lithonia, we have a mall in Stonecrest, but people will drive to Lenox and then drive to Perimeter to go to the mall, even though we have a mall right there in Stonecrest. And why is that? Because the selection of stores and the restaurants and everything in your community is not what you would have it to be, but you'll take your money and go someplace else. So you have to promote businesses. So the Secretary of State's office will promote incorporation. Well, what I would do, because it doesn't do that currently, is I would have a page on there just to encourage people to open businesses here in Georgia. I want you to do it, and especially minority businesses, to have a page just like, how do we encourage minorities to open businesses? Because I always tell people it's not about someone being prejudiced, but we rise and fall together. And if the black community rises, the rest of the community will rise. Because oftentimes people say, well, you all aren't doing your share. Yeah, we do our share. You say you're getting our share because we take our money out of our community and we're giving it to everybody else. When we could concentrate a lot of it here. And I know we have the capacity to do any and everything because nationally, black buying power is at $1.3 trillion. So we got the money. Look, we already put $1 billion into Black Panther. So we have the buying power. We just got to concentrate it into the right place and have people who are knowledgeable about how to do that, doing that.
It's funny you said that because it's funny you said Lithonia, so that's where I live at.
Okay.
And I know they recently had the rezoning to where it's like Stonecrest, now it's in Stonecrest, and they did that because of money type of way, like the median for how much the cost of the people who live there is higher in city of Stonecrest compared to Lithonia. But what I noticed is that if we truly support the businesses and the restaurants in that area, then it will be more people willing to come. But if they don't see the restaurants thriving and the movie theaters, the malls thriving, then we're not giving these other stores the incentive to come there and
That's right.
to shop there.
And we have the wherewithal to do that. So let me just put a little plug in for myself. So we have the city of Stone. Where do you live? Now tell me the street number. Where in proximity?
I'm like
Off
10
of
minutes from 10 minutes from Stonecrest, so like off of Panola Road.
Okay, so that's good. So, so are you in the city of Stonecrest right now? Or are you still in Lithonia?
I'm still left on you.
Okay, so you know they were trying to make that part probably Greenhaven. But anyway, so when Stonecrest came about, Senator Ron Ramsey actually sponsored that legislation in the Senate, and I actually sponsored it in the House. So I actually was the one who was the architect of Stonecrest. So, but when they came to me, what they said was, we want a city of our own. And the reason we want a city of our own so we can focus just on our wherewithal here. So Jason Larry, who's the mayor, came to me along with the people who were trying to get Stonecrest up. Stonecrest together. And the reason why I carried that legislation for them to create our own city is because I saw the potential for us to be our own economic engine. And so I hope, that's my hope, is that that will actually happen. Because if we think about how many dollars we take out of Lithonia or Stonecrest every year, it is phenomenal. Do you know, nationally, we were the second. We would go back and forth between Maryland, Prince County, Maryland, as being the most affluent black people in the country. Lithonia, Stonecrest, and Prince George County.
Really?
Yes, we are. And people, you know, all the studies talk about that. Prince George County, Maryland, and Stonecrest, well, Lithonia. And what happened was, some people, when Jason and them came to me, they said, well, Mayor Larry, it's such negative connotation sometimes on the city of Lithonia. And maybe we should do something different and rebrand ourselves so that we can make this, you know, a new, you know, something new, something different, so we can really focus on economic development. Well, I listened to him, and one of the other people who was part of that was Ples Joyner and George Turner, and a lot of them, you know, George Turner now is on the city council. He's the mayor pro tem, and Ples Joyner is assistant city manager. And so they had a vision for the city. So let's just hope that the vision, I believe that the best is yet to come.
Yeah, you know, I've heard some great things. You know, I think they talking about Top Golf is coming out that way,
and it's going to be huge. You know, we're doing a mega sports complex. It's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming. It's going to be huge, like the biggest in the Southeast. So I'm saying, let's give it a chance. You know, some people are so negative, but I was like, well, it wasn't doing as great as it could have been before, so let's give it a chance and see what happens. And then if it doesn't work out well, then, you know, I will work on them myself, because I put my name on that. I had to, you know, take a lot of hits for that, creating that new city. So I just have faith that city's going to do well.
Good. So now that makes a lot more sense to me, because it's like, okay, because if we understand the power we have, and it is, instead of always going to Lenox, always going to perimeter, you know, and just buy within our city, you know, and you know, I just think, because sometimes once we do get a little bit more money, we want to go to where the other people are at. And
we do.
Instead of just staying and investing in our city.
And it's little things we can do that people don't even realize. So I don't even buy gas unless I have to outside of DeKalb County. And the reason I do that is because just the little taxes that's on the gas goes back into your pool for development in your county, your city. So unless I'm just on E and I can't make it home, I'm not going to buy gas someplace. And if I've got to get fast food, I'm going to try to push it all the way until I can get to the county line. Now, there's a reason for that, or to a community that is predominantly African American, because those taxes go back to that community. So I have to help people be conscious about little things like that.
I don't even think people knew that. I don't think people really knew that. I didn't know that.
Your taxes, where you pay taxes.
And again, it goes back to the health and wellness of our community
Yeah,
and our
just
finances by just knowing, hey, just cross this line, back into your own county and spend your dollars in your own county.
Yes.
Cross this line and go back to those gas stations that's right down the street from your house in your communities and spend your dollars there, because it's unequivocal that money is power. And Mr. Gladden alluded to the fact that he was saying that in order for us to change our economical standing, we have to start from an internal premise, which is basically what you're saying. You got to start at home and bring it back home. Start from within to without.
That's right. That's a great way to sum that up. It is. So it's little things like that I try to put in people's head. Come on, we got to do this.
So how do you think we need to change the mindset of ourselves so we could do different things? Because I don't think lots of, first of all, we don't know a lot of things, but then I think a lot of times too, we change the mindset and feel like over there is better. And we just here because this is where we live.
It's conditioning. So when I was growing up, my daddy, this is funny, we would always say Mr. Charlie. Now don't, so we knew what Mr. Charlie was, but funny thing is my daddy's name was actually Charlie. So he was the exception to the Mr. Charlie. But anyway, there were a lot of people who grew up and said the white man ice is colder than the black man's ice, right? That's conditioning of your mind. So you have to almost reteach or re-socialize people in their way of thinking. And I'm telling you, to me, one of the best things that could have ever happened is a fictitious movie, a comic book movie called Black Panther. Because in this movie, it showed black people who and what we are. It did an awakening. And if you notice, not everybody's like Wakanda forever. Because it was a catalyst to show people we are royalty. We came from something. And so something just is, you know, it's not as small, but something like a movie could be the spark. Now, for me, I've been doing work in Africa for probably about 20 years, and so I don't know if you read that in my bio. So I'm always in Africa, and I'm always doing international business and helping people open businesses in Africa and having Africans open business in the United States. So that's what I do. Like next week, I'll be at the United Nations, even though I'm running for Secretary of State. But if I were the Secretary of State of America, then I would be doing that anyway. I would be at the United Nations, and so I'll be at the United Nations. I'm having a couple of panels. It's the Women Commission and Status on Women. It's every year at the United Nations. And so I'm doing a couple of different panels. One is on women's empowerment through entrepreneurship, politics, and leadership. So I want to teach women that you got to do it through money, you got to do it through leadership, whether that's however you're a leader, however that shows up, and then through your vote, through politics. And so the UN, going to the UN, I work with other women around the country and then around the world to be empowered. Every year in December, I do an international conference, Asia, Africa, Middle East, Asia, and South America in Dubai. And so we bring in some of the first ladies from different African nations, from, South American countries, some of the world leaders. Like next Friday when I'm in the UN, the vice president of Liberia will be speaking, and only because she's a woman. She just got elected and sworn in January. In the past, we've done stuff with Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, who was the president of Liberia, because she was the first woman. Now Liberia has a woman vice president. But even then, I always work with women leaders around the world because they could speak to other women, and then they empower. So when those young girls in those countries, whether it's Rwanda or Ghana or Nigeria or South Africa, they see these women in these positions, they say, I can do this too. How do I do this? And one of the partners that I've been working with for years, T. Thompson, she's out of Michigan. She has a company called AgriBiz, and she's teaching women and girls how to empower themselves through agriculture throughout the world. And so when we teach them how to grow from the land, that's what we have to do here in Georgia, because a lot of black people in rural areas, they have land. And what are they doing with their land? That's why the cannabis industry would be huge here, because they can grow marijuana, they can grow hemp, and we could teach people how to be entrepreneurs just off of the land that they have, that their ancestors passed down to them, that's just sitting out there now and nothing is happening. So we've got to awaken something in people. And so back to this whole Black Panther thing, I think it has enlightened people so they can see themselves as kings and queens, and that we don't have to look anyplace else, we can look within.
Exactly.
I love it.
Because that's where it really starts. And I think we've had this dialogue before in some previous shows of yours about it is a conditioning of the mind. And it doesn't take a person with a psychology degree, even though I have one, but even before I obtained it, I knew that it had to be the renewing of the mind. Even the Bible talks about that, because that's where it starts. And really, when you change what you think about changes. But in order to get to that plateau, you really have to start seeing yourself in a different light. And in regard to that movie, it helped to ignite, and that's what I do, ignite the fire on the inside to help you live a freer and happier life on the inside. And in part, that movie helped to ignite a fire inside people that will help spark the change in their
Right.
cognitive processing. Because if you feel like you are a nobody, you are going to do what a nobody does.
Right.
And that's absolutely nothing. But when you are a somebody deep inside, it's going to emanate to the outside. And your behavior, your conversation, what you think about, and what you do about what you do is going to change. And again, just like Ms. Hagler said, you've got to really start from the inside. Just like Mr. Gladden said, it really starts from the inside, whether it's economics, whether it's finances, whether it's who we are as a people. It starts internally.
That's
But
right.
Got to change what you think about.
So what do you need from us? How can we help you?
I need some water. Hold on. Ooh, I start coughing. So I need people to be engaged, to volunteer, to spread the word. Because a lot of times, thank you, appreciate it. A lot of times people don't even realize that people are even running for office, that there's even an election coming around the corner, that you can start voting April the 30th. Early voting starts April the 30th, and people have no idea that that's
Yeah.
around the corner. None whatsoever. So if we could just start getting the word out in all of our social media methods. Excuse me, y'all, but I had to get that out of the way. So let's just say it's a massive social media campaign. Not just for myself, but just in general, just about elections in general. Because if people pretty much know that it's time to vote, they will know who to vote for once they start tuning in and looking up. But then there are others who are busy with work. They'll go to vote, but they may not know. So then we have to kind of guide them in the right direction that way. So let's just start putting it out there every chance we get. Register to vote. So if you want to register to vote, you don't have any excuse because you can register to vote online now. Right. www.mvp.sos.ga.gov. And you see that, you can go online, do it. You can upload your driver's license, whatever you need to do. You can register online. With your cell phone. Take your cell phone. When we walk around now, we need to tell people, are you registered to vote? Raise your hand. You're not? Take out your cell phone. Come on, let's register you to vote right now.
So
Get
what
your
is that
information.
address again?
www.mvp.sos.ga.gov. So that's myvoterpage.secretaryofstate.georgia.gov. So that's mvp.sos.ga.gov. Did you get it? There we go. There we go. So people can go. You see how it says register? Right there. Register to vote. And then they can go through the process.
Awesome. Awesome. So it
Knowledge is
can't
power.
be made
Or
any
they can go
simpler.
here, or you
Simpler.
can go here right now and say, let me see if I'm actually registered to vote. They didn't take me off the list. Right there where it says MVP login, it's simple. You
Yes.
put your first initial, your last name, your county, your date of birth. Bam, it'll show you who your elected officials are and where you go vote if you're still on
Okay.
Wow.
Awesome. That's awesome.
there. Yeah, so that's what you have to do.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
knowledge is power.
Yes,
It is, and I just think we don't have it, and so it's like it's needed that we come out here, have y'all come out here and really tell us what's really going on. So, in layman's terms, that we could get a clear understanding of what we need to do, because I think a lot of times we don't think our vote really counts.
And it does count. Let me tell you something. If we don't know anything else, we've learned from this last presidential election, and that your vote counts. Because we only lost Georgia by, let's say, and I know people think this is a lot, by a couple 100,000, which is really not a lot. Because first of all, we had 600,000 people who were registered to vote, black people who didn't vote. And then we had about another 700,000 black people who were not registered to vote that could have voted. So you're not talking about over 1 million people, but we only lost about 200,000. And that's not even including the white people who didn't go vote either. So I'm just saying, we could have won that election had
Right.
we just gone to vote. Just we. Because then like, we got to save everybody anyway.
Right.
So
Right, and especially if you look at that vote in Alabama,
yes.
and how the black women came out in droves, and they were the catalyst of that man winning.
Right.
And if that could change the narrative about the black vote,
Right.
that we are needed.
Yeah.
And so if we understand how much we are needed, then hopefully we'll do better and be better.
That's right.
So
So we got to get out there. We got to get them out. Y'all got to tell people. You got to spread the word. You got to say, come on, y'all. Dee Hagler, she's out there. She's running for Secretary of State. And we got to get behind her. We got to get behind all of the candidates who are good candidates who will make a difference. And so if they want to find me, they can go to www.dhagler.com. See, you're so good. It's right there.
Of course.
Right. dhagler.com. And so they can just go there. And most of all, they can go start giving some money because when President Obama went, and even when Bernie Sanders had his campaign, Hillary, people started giving $5 here and $10 here, and it will make a difference if enough people give it. Remember, I said there are over 3 million black people in Georgia, and you don't have to be in Georgia to give me money. So any of your viewers who are listening that live wherever, you can send some money too, and it only takes you a few minutes to give $10.
Right.
So it'll take a few minutes.
So to our folks that are viewing in overseas, they can send you money
They can
too?
send me money too.
Okay.
Yes, I need it. I need money wherever. We need money. Send it in. Send it in. If you're an American citizen, send it in.
I love it.
Fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah, you
it's
got more
awesome.
questions or statements?
Well, I really am happy that Ms. Hagler came. I actually met her at another empowerment conference where she was there doing the conference for Black Girl Magic.
Okay.
And again, it's another platform where we are empowering women in our communities, but also the men, because there were several men in the audience that day. And I got to tell you, when I met her, we like clicked. It was like, okay, hey, this is what I'm doing. What are you doing? And I said, well, okay, you're running for office. Have you thought about being on the show? And she was like, sure, I'd love to be in the show. And that type of spirit wasn't just because she wanted to be in front of the camera on the radio. Because when we talked briefly, she wanted to get the message out. She wanted to educate people. And even if, no matter who you vote for, is what I got from her. No matter who you vote for, I want to educate you so that you'll have the power that you need to make a good informed choice. And that's one reason why I was like, that'll be great if she could come on the show. So of course I called you and was like, hey, this is the deal. But I made sure I read her bio.
Right.
And when I read her bio, and I sent the bio to the show also ahead of time, because we want people who are informed in front of us to help lead us and guide us. And having said that, when you have all this knowledge, all this experience, it's like you can't lose.
And she humble.
And she humble.
Look at her.
Yeah. You can't lose. And I don't just mean the candidate, but I mean people in general. Sometimes we just have to listen. And we have to be humble enough as voters to bring in the information that the folks are putting out there. And we can discern between the real and the non-real.
Right.
Yes, we can.
And then make a conscious choice if we really want to see change. Because again, the only way we're going to see change is if we change.
Right.
If the community don't change,
Right.
all the politicians in the world can come into office and things will continue to run the same. But if we change what we really want and really get behind the people that's trying to bring it about,
Right.
then things will change. So I'm just happy that
Right.
I'm
I
so
was
glad
able
you-
to
and
meet
I'm glad
you.
you gave extended the invitation. You said, I got to go talk to someone, but I'm going to get back to you because I think this is the show you need to be on. And so let me just tell you something about my little personality, too. So I was raised by my mother. My mother was a teenager when she had me, but she went on to become the first black woman elected to city council where I'm from, which is West Columbia, South Carolina. And so her mother taught her. My great-grandmother taught her. So my great-grandmother was an entrepreneur, her and all of her sisters. So my great-grandmother owned her own restaurant, we owned her own store. Her sisters, one owned a clothing store, one owned a restaurant. And so they all, for whatever reason, they were just entrepreneurs. My mother, because she got pregnant at 17, had me at 17, she didn't stop. She instilled in me, and I have one brother, she instilled in us that you never give up and you always fight. Never give up, always fight. And then she ended up going to Desert Storm. She was in the military. She was actually a registered nurse, and then she signed up later in life to go, to be a nurse in the National Guard. And then they ended up sending her to Desert Storm. So she got hurt. She's in a wheelchair. But then she always said, Dee, and my grandmother as well, at the end of the day, make sure that you do service for people. So I was raised like that. That's why when I first started this conversation, I said there was a lot of women who seeded into my life. But for me, at the end of the day, I want God to be pleased with me and what I do.
Exactly.
Because you can get accolades from men and women all day, but at the end of the day, if it's not pleasing in God's sight, then I would have lived my life in vain. And then I've been through a lot of things in my life, and one of those things is I'm a breast cancer survivor. And so when a few years ago when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I remember I was still the chair of the Black Caucus. It was in January 2015, and I was sitting here, and I just came back from Africa, and the doctor gave me the diagnosis. And then I was like, okay, session has started. I've got a lot to get done. We're trying to pass a $1 billion transportation bill, and we got a lot going on, and I've got to be on point. I've got to make sure that I do all the things that I need to do. And people didn't even know I was suffering with breast cancer. They had no idea because I had a smile on my face, and then I would miss a few days, but they didn't know why I was missing, because when I come back, I'd still be smiling and happy. And then I told God, like, when this is over, I'm going to live my life like I've always lived my life, but now you spared my life, so I'm going to really go hard. Like young people say, I'm going to paint. Like, I was already going hard. I'm really going to go hard now. And so now I'm not concerned about what other people say or do. If it's not right, righteous and just, then we're not going to even go that route, because I got work to do.
Right.
So you can either get on board or get out of the way, because God's will be done one way or another. It will be done. Right. And I know we have the separation of church and state. I get all of that. I've been in politics a long time. But at the end of the day, your work should line up with what you truly believe. And if you don't believe the right things, then your work is going to resemble what you believe. You are
Right.
what you believe. So that's why
Because
your,
I think,
your work.
And it goes back to that spiritual aspect that we've been
Yeah.
talking about.
and I think sometimes it bothers me because, especially when you talk about politics, a lot of these politicians speak talking about the morality, but their actions don't not align with the morality.
No.
You know, it's a morality thing when it comes down to sexuality, but it's not a morality thing when it comes down to gun control.
Right. Yeah.
It's not a morality thing about police brutality or anything like that. It's where the morality is out the picture when it comes to that. Morality is only morality when it pertains to something that it benefits them.
That's correct.
And so therefore you lose true spiritual people who want to be aligned with you, because you're not really aligned with what they're trying to be about, because you say you all have a moral compass, but you really don't.
You really don't. And then you have the.
I wanted to chime in right there, because while you taking your breather,
I was ready to say something, but I said, you know what, I'm not
Yeah.
even gonna say that, because if you ever served down there with some of those people, they claim the high road, the religious right. They say that they're right, but they're absolutely wrong, because their actions do not line
Absolutely.
up to what they say.
Exactly.
And I wanted to say this: when we deal from a spiritual premise, we can't use the excuse, well, I did it because I'm human. I'm only human. Because we're not only human, and we've had this dialogue before. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. So if we deal from the premise of spirituality and it lines up with our work for
Absolutely.
what the higher power have
In
assigned
store.
us to do here,
Yeah.
then we don't use the excuse, I'm only human. I couldn't stop it. I couldn't stop it. I'm only human. We have to call ourselves to a higher plane of
Right.
behavior and of thought.
Because if we do it from a spiritual standpoint and line ourselves to what He wants done for us, nothing can stop it. Nothing can stop it. And so that goes back to what you're saying. Are we only human? Yes, we are. So that's a fact, but it's also an excuse. Because then therefore we don't want to take accountability and responsibility of our actions, and that's what we all have to be able to do. And it's unfair for us to put the spotlight on these candidates run for office, and they hold them to a higher level of expectation of what they're supposed to be,
Right.
do, and act. But yet we don't have the same expectations of how we're supposed to do being act.
That's right. Exactly.
And so, you know.
That's right. I'm just saying that's right. And this is why we need people who are in right fellowship with God or high, whatever you want to say, the right relationship with man, with each other in office. Because I always tell people, how could you have voted on that public policy if you say you're a Christian, or if you say whatever you say? Because your public policy should line up with your walk, or your faith, your spirit. And to say that you're penalizing people because they're poor does not line up with the Word of God. It does not line up with your spirituality, because you want to do things to help people. So I don't know what you're doing. You just, what you're saying, stop saying that you are the religious right. Stop. See, first of all, we've got to stop saying that Democrats are ungodly and Republicans are godly. Because there are ungodly people in both, and there are ungodly and godly people in both. But you just got to figure out where they are.
Right.
That's
Absolutely.
the first thing.
And then, even with the whole, when they was trying to pass that new health bill, how can you say you have a moral compass and you want to say that someone who's pregnant is a pre-existing condition?
Isn't that crazy?
Who does that?
They do.
That's a natural.
They do.
That's natural.
They do. That's
It's not
right.
like you have, congestive heart failure.
Right. You're pregnant.
You about to give life to somebody.
This is what we're working with.
And if you, as with me having an insurance background, I was trying to let people understand and educate them. Okay, are you aware that even if they look at it for healthcare reform, which is Obamacare, if that's a state mandate that is approved, then the corporations can fall right in line. So then your job, Ford, Amazon, whatever, can say, you know what, on my next re-up of my insurance, I want pregnancy to be a pre-existing condition. And people was not aware of that. I said, so these are the people who are supposed to be doing it in the best interest of you.
Yes. This is why we have to make sure we know who's going in office. And I'm just going to say this. This is my shameless, but the person that's running against me, one of the people that's running against me for this position on the Democratic side, because I got to get out of the primary, is a former congressman. He led the effort to repeal Obamacare. He voted against the Dreamers Act. He's heavily sponsored and supported by the NRA. He voted against the environment, when they had the Keystone Pipeline and they was trying to do all that stuff, mess up the environment in the Dakotas. He voted for that. And he has big dollars. So what I'm saying is people have to check the records, because if you can't trust somebody with your health care, you can't trust them with having babies over bullets. You can't trust them with the environment. How you going to trust them with your voting rights? And how you going to trust them with business? This is the things that we got to talk about. This is why we got to have conversations, and people got to pay attention.
Right. And we got to be able to do our due diligence and not just look at campaign messages, because people can say anything in the commercial.
Check their record.
Check their records. And somebody you could say what you just said, and they could easily try to make a spin to make it seem like what you're saying is not true. Right. But all you gotta do is
check their record.
Google is your best friend.
Yes, it is. Just check it, and then you be like, "Oh my God, what just happened here?" I'm just saying. So I always tell people, it's so funny. Ever since I started running back in 2006, I always tell people, check my record. Don't listen to what I say, because I could tell you anything.
Yes.
But check the record, and then your voting record will pop up, and then you'll know what people are really about. Check their record.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things I want to touch back on is, like, we talking about voting, and I had met with this guy, these men. They're part of the Nation of Islam, and they called the Peacekeepers, and they create this whole initiative now where they're going to different barbershops in the different cities. So they started off in Chicago as being so what they do is they go into different barbershops, because they said if you want to reach the black man, you gotta go with the black man, ER, and they at the barbershop.
That's where they are. That's why I love the barbershops. That's right.
You have to.
And I'm gonna spend some more time. You know what? That's confirmation for me because I just told people we got to get to these barbershops.
And so
got to get into it.
and so they are in line with what you're talking about, that how we got to get these guys to be more active in the political process. So what they said they're gonna do is they got like 6 barbershops. They went to Chicago first. They got 6 barbershops in Chicago. So they are going to be like the hub. So you are able now to go to that barbershop and sign, become a
It's something.
voter registration. And so if let's say I'm a barber and my client is about to turn 18, so for his birthday I'm gonna give him a free haircut. In order for him to get that free haircut, he gotta go register to vote.
I love that.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
We have a lot of other companies that are actually hosting people who are running for public office. And I just wanted to talk about a restaurant. It's called the Blue Rose Bistro in Douglasville, Georgia. And Michelle and her husband, they do a phenomenal job. Each Tuesday they have what you call a chat and chew. And they invite anyone that's running for public office, the lawmakers within that community to come out, and they hold a public forum where you come in, you sit down. They have a beautiful art bistro there. You sit down, you're served, but during this, there's a dialogue, and they talk about what the commissioner can do to enhance Douglasville. They talk about what the mayor, Miss Robinson, can do. And this is the thing, you actually get to talk with your lawmakers.
Right.
So I encourage even other businesses to do the same, because I gotta tell you, the Blue Rose Art Bistro in Douglasville, they're leading the way with doing that. And I love what they're doing because they're helping to make the community more aware.
And I'm gonna look them up.
And they're right down the street from my office too, so it makes it,
I'm
makes it
look them
great.
up.
Yep. And I'll give you the information on them. So, and I'd like to invite you out to the Chat and Chew.
I would love to come to that.
Okay,
yes.
fantastic. Well, we'll make it happen.
And now I'm got to go because it's in my 8:30 hour and I have to get to another appointment.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
So before you leave,
Yes.
what's your last thought you want to give to the audience?
First-
And then tell them where you can reach you at.
Okay, so I want to thank you all again. Thank you, Lotus. Thank you all for letting me come out. So this was great. This is great to have the conversation, the dialogue. I need people to support me. I need you to go to www.dhagler.com. I need you, that's right, dhagler.com. I need you to go to my Instagram, which is DAWKHAIG7, or I need you to go to my Facebook, which is D. Dawkins Hagler for Georgia, D. Dawkins Hagler for Georgia. That's my name spelled out completely. You can find me on Twitter at D. What is my Twitter? D. Dawkins Hagler without the word, just the letter D. D.
Yes.
Dawkins Hagler without the hyphen, because my Facebook page has the hyphen in it. So all of those are my social media places. Come look me up. I'm ready to talk to you. I'll come out if you want me to come speak, if you want me to come be a part of a panel, whatever it is, because we are down to the wire. You got 70 days to the election, have 55 days, 52 days until early voting starts. So I need people fired up and ready to go. It's like word of mouth. Let me tell you something. We have social media now, but when it was time for the Montgomery boycott, people only had their telephones, their home phones, their landlines. The church, the barbershop, the hair salon to get the word out. There's no reason why we can't get the word out when we have all this social media and all these cell phones, that there are people running on the ticket who will advance our community, and not just our community, but will take care of everybody. Because I believe that a black woman can govern everybody, and we're not limited to just black population or black size of town. Because I've heard a lot of people say you can't win because you're black. Well, I think that is a lie from the pit of hell. We can win. If you people to go vote, we can win, and we can do it together. So I just need people to go out and vote and to support me. D. Dawkins Hagler, dhagler.com. Secretary of State, I'm ready. I'm excited. I'm fired up and ready to go. We got work to do, and so I'm looking forward for the support. So call me. I'm ready to come out.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming.
I appreciate you.
Thank you.
One last thing for you.
Thank
What's
you.
your last thought, ma'am?
Well, again, of course, we want to thank Ms. Hagler for coming out. We definitely want to thank you, Kevin, for always being open to help push the community. I want to thank you for also helping to push our suicide intervention workshop that we're doing each month here. And for those of you that would like to participate, it's going to be at 4863 North Henry Boulevard, Stockbridge, Georgia, 30281. And you can call me on my cell phone. You can call me on my office phone. You can come visit my office at 6790 West Broad Street in Douglasville, Georgia, at Lotus Richey Ignites Life Coaching and Consulting, in conjunction with the Healing and Restoration Center, where we have Ms. Shiandra there, and of course we have Jessica Frazier there, dealing with women who are exploited. Straight Street Ministries, and of course Sister Circle of Love. So please give us a call at 1-800-593-9733 if you need our help or want to attend any of our courses, our anger management, communication, and just a plethora of things that we have for the community. And again, I just want to say, Kevin, that it's so critical that our people vote. And when I say our people, I just don't mean people of color. I mean our people in our communities. And that goes out to people who are Caucasian, Latino, Mexican, Korean, or of any Asian persuasion, German, Greek. It doesn't matter who you are. The most important thing is that you get out there and you get out there and vote, because the only way that you're going to see progressive change is if you change the way you progress, and that's through voting for the right candidate at the right time.
I agree. For me, it's twofold. This is what I say. First of all, I want to show gratitude. I've always said, you have to align yourself with the right people, and you never know who you align yourself with. But when you align yourself with the right people who see your vision and want to see your vision and agree with your vision and want to help your vision, because you can't do anything by yourself.
Amen.
Anything. As much as I try, I'm very independent. I try to do everything by myself. I can't do it. I publicly want to say thank you to you.
You're welcome.
Because you have been, since I met you, you've been like, hey, all these different people who want to come on your show, and I greatly appreciate that. The fact that I said I want to be global, and you got people from Japan and Africa listen to my show. That means a lot to me, because that means you see my vision and you see what I'm trying to do. Well, not what I'm trying to do, what I'm doing, and you want to help me elevate that platform. So I'm truly grateful for that. With that being said, we know the wellness of our community is at a dire need, and for us to do better, we got to change our thought patterns on how we see things, how we do things, and how we see the political process.
Right.
And we got to not look at it from a negative perspective, but how can we change it for the better? And in order for us to change it for the better, that means we got to be an active participant in it, and not just in the election of the president, because actually the city and the state governments is the more powerful platforms. Exactly. Anyway. So if we do that first, and be more active and show that we are interested, then they have no choice to play games with us.
Exactly.
And either we're gonna play ball or we're gonna sit on the bench. So it's up to us what we're gonna do. Also, look out for me soon. We want more life coaching. Please email me, contact me. I'm gonna try to work with you guys.
Yes.
Some things. I got some things in the works with some great men about doing a seminar and empowerment or something like that. I would love to speak to some women.
Yes.
About empowering them from a wellness perspective, and also those who still interested in trying to lose weight. First, by doing a detox. Please reach out to me via Facebook or Instagram, and I will get back with you on that one. So once again, this has been the Wellness Architect Show. Be great, be you, be authentic, and we are out.
The biggest station in the world, playing all of today's hits. You're listening to Instinct Radio.